Hi there.
Hi.
Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Of course. Could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Jennie Onisk. I'm an artist and a designer. I'm also a teacher currently. I have been many things before that, but that's what I'm doing
Mhm.
currently. And I also run my own business called Oxford Comma Company, where I kind of try lots of different art things to sell.
Awesome. So we know each other because you vended at my runway show, which is like literally exactly a year ago almost at this point.
Yes, I'm so nostalgic.
Um, and I was basically just looking for people who make handmade things or ethically produce things that are women or non-binary people, so that the runway show was like less of just like a show up, you see a show, you leave, and more of like a community experience. And I remember when I emailed you, and then when you emailed me back, I was like, oh my God, we have a very similar story. Like, I remember I was at um, my student's house who I was teaching fashion design to, and I read your email, and he was like, did you write that email? I was like, no, somebody else wrote that email to me.
Kindred
So could
spirit.
yes. So could you tell me a little bit about um work, we both work in corporate fashion is the short story of that. Could you tell me a little bit about how you got from there to leaving and what you're doing now?
Yeah. It was exactly 10 years ago this year that I graduated from college. I have absolutely no worries about that at all. I feel totally fine about it. Um, absolutely fine. Working through it in therapy. But I went to school in Virginia and I moved to New York right after that with like all of the dreams of becoming a fashion designer. I definitely don't think like when I was younger I even knew what that meant. I just like liked making things, and when I learned that you could design clothes, I was like that makes sense. I want like a practical job. Um as a woman in the world, I never felt like I had clothes that fit me or like felt pretty. So I was like, "Oh my god, I could make clothes for people and we would feel better and I get to like use my art and my practical skills. This is the perfect job for me. How incredible." Cut to working in like a corporate design job where you make clothes that people like you and me could wear, that my mother would like to wear. Um, I was really not prepared for like the corporate life, I would say, and also, how business oriented it is, how like exclusive it is. There's not a lot that's glamorous about it. It's kind of like, the world that you think fashion is like sitting in a studio and like picking out fabrics and like waxing poetic about inspiration. And in reality, it's like I'm working with a sales team and they're like, this blouse sold last year. How do we sell it this year without charging any more money? And like that was basically my job. So eventually, I know you're shaking your head, and I agree. It's like I get it and it makes sense. But I eventually I kind of worked my way up through private label companies. So we would kind of work with other brands or even like celebrity clients who wanted to like sell a clothing line, and I would help
Hmm.
develop those clothing lines to sell in like QVC or also yeah,
Which yes, pause very quickly to tell people, like, I just want to stress that point that like
yeah.
when celebrities decide that they want to have a clothing
Oh
line
my
or
god,
something, like, and then they say like, oh, I'm a designer, like they're not a designer, they're like
no.
signing off on other designers' work. Okay, continue.
Yes, and, like, that I feel like it should be a whole thing because also I love, like, celebrity well, I did, like, very much bought into, like, "Oh my god, I'm meeting this celebrity and, like, I'm gonna design their clothing line." Like, heck yeah,
Hmm.
and lots of people are lovely, but it's so rare that they're even involved. It's like, "Yes, this
Hmm.
matches what I would like. What are the talking points I should say when I'm trying to sell this on QVC or on the internet or
Yep.
whatever?" And, like, that's it.
Yep.
The rest is
Yep.
people like you and me who are, like, trying to figure out what to actually make for them.
Hmm.
Um, but I kind of liked like the problem solving and like the working within parameters, like that really suits me. If you say there's like a minimum for this fabric, like how can I use it in a smart way to get the clothing made that we need? Like I love all that stuff of fashion.
Hmm.
And I kind of always assumed that working like the practical corporate route meant that like I would avoid the drama and like the big personalities of like these wild fashion designer artists. not the case. Like you would think I was working at Chanel with like how nasty people were to each other, you know?
Uh-huh.
Like,
Uh-huh.
why? And, I think like very naively, I kind of like I'm a pretty straight shooter. I'm like, I want the easiest, quickest way for us to like solve problems. Like I always joke, like if the printer paper runs out, like I just put new paper in. Like it's that simple,
What
like,
a concept.
right. And like I'm the kind of person you want to work in a corporate office. Like I love it. I'm like, hey Billy, how are the kids? Like I love that kind of vibe. Like that's what I wanted to be when I grew up. I want to like work in an office and like do something cool. So anyways, it was not like that. It's just like so cutthroat. A lot of like really old fashioned practices is what was shocking to me. And I think it probably took like 5 or 6 years for me to even just understand the cog I am in the wheel that is the whole fashion world. Like you say, capital
Mm-hmm.
F fashion
Yes.
cycle and system. And kind of like my role is essentially the middleman between the factory partners who are producing and manufacturing for us and the sales end that's like selling the clothes. And I
Mm-hmm.
think even just learning that cycle and all the people who are involved and like the penny pinching and not
Mm-hmm.
caring about those factory partners, constantly screwing over those factory partners, nickel and
Mm-hmm.
diming them when they're literally barely surviving and their factories collapse. And the first question you ask
Yep.
is, oh no, were those our clothes? Oh, they weren't. Great. And then they move on to the next thing. And I'm like, what is this world? Right? We're both like touching our faces right now because we're like, this is the life.
People need to watch the video of this
Yeah.
one because I'm just really over here
There's a lot
making
of arm
lots of
movement.
motions.
That's how I feel though. And like I've joked about this a lot, but is anyone doing like a tell-all about like what this is really like? I feel like you're the first person I've come into that's just like, just so you know, this is how things are. And people are like, what?
I know. I
People need to
know.
know how ridiculous it
I
is.
know. Yeah, I mean, it's so true. I mean, I had one other guest so far who also worked in corporate fashion, and she went to FIT with me.
Okay.
And she stayed in corporate fashion for a long time because she started in juniors, which is what I did, and then
Me too.
she moved to children's wear.
Okay.
And she had a little bit of a slightly better experience in children's wear, for whatever reason. Maybe it was the company she's in, maybe it's that sector. I don't know because I've never done children's wear, but um, it was definitely hard work, but it seemed a little less toxic than
Yeah.
juniors for some reason. And then she ended up leaving because she was going to have a baby and was like, I will never see my child if this is my life. And I'm
Yeah.
not comfortable with that. So that's a whole other conversation. And
Right.
if folks haven't heard that podcast episode, that's with Katie. It's a little
Oh,
earlier on.
actually, I think I listened to that. Does she live upstate now and makes?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, she
Yep.
has a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, makes beautiful products, children's products.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
she's a maker as well, and has an Etsy shop called Chelsea and Marbles. But what was so interesting is to talk to another person, and we were both seemingly kind of like struggling a little bit to really explain like how the environment feels of corporate fashion, and the word that we just kept saying was like toxic. Like it's just like
as soon as you said that, I was like, yes, like a bad relationship. And you're like,
it's
I just remember kept thinking like, well, I'm going to go to the next job because I figured out tricks to survive this job. And I'm pretty sure if I just go to the next one and implement those tricks, like I will be able to figure this out. Like I will fit into this world and be able to like unlock the secret of like being successful and also like happy at this job.
Right.
And it just never happened. And toxic is exactly the word because I keep saying like, I couldn't even talk about fashion. I've been out of it for about 3 years. I couldn't even talk about it until like really this year because I didn't want to be involved. I like couldn't think about it. I couldn't have like perspective enough to reflect until recently. And I feel like listening to your podcast actually was really inspiring this past week. I did a talk basically with my a graduating class from where I went to school at VCU in Richmond. And to do that, I had to essentially reflect on the past 10 years of my career and like explain it. And I kind of made like a graph of my jobs and I drew it how it felt, which was like, I climbed a ladder and I fell back down. I hopped over here and I quit and I came over. And I was like, it looks this crazy. That's actually how it felt. But every step of the way, like I learned something important that like brought me to the next stage. But in the end, it was really like realizing that my inherent like personality and values, more importantly, like cannot exist in this space. And,
Right.
for the sake of, I can either like change who I am, which I tried for most of my 20s, but why? When like, changing who I am was basically like, for some reason, I'm starting to hate people. I don't feel creative. I don't feel happy. And I feel like trapped at my desk all the time. And then when I left, I was like, oh, I actually love people. I love being creative. When I'm around positive people, I feel very positive and hopeful and like we can solve all these problems. But when you're in it,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like this toxic, really just like dinosaurish system that I can't
Mm-hmm.
believe is even functioning anymore, frankly. I don't know how any of our clothes get anywhere because it's wild.
It's almost to the point. I think some of these companies that it's like a too big to fail
Yeah.
situation. It's like, I mean, the company that I worked for, they just made so much stuff for
Yeah.
so many places. I mean,
Yeah.
like they had an entire Walmart team of
Same.
designers,
Yeah.
and then our team did, J.C. Penney, Burlington, Ross, Wet Seal.
Yes.
It's just like they and then they also have their own line
Mm-hmm.
that we make that like smaller places will come in and buy from. Like they've built up such a huge structure
Mm-hmm.
that, like, even if one of those people leaves and goes somewhere else for whatever reason, they have so much more backup. And quite honestly, all of those places that I'm naming, they don't only get their clothes from us, they get
Right.
them from multiple places all over. So it's like it's it's such a big monster, and I don't
Too
think it's ever gonna completely dissipate. And quite honestly, there are people who need to buy their clothes from Walmart for whatever reason, whether it's a money thing, whether
exactly.
it's an access thing. So that I don't want it to completely disappear.
Yeah.
But you know, I do want it to just lessen
Yes. That's
because it's making such a bad impact on the planet and on human beings.
Yeah, and like those are the companies I worked for too. And it's funny because like there are so many of these middleman private labels all selling to the same places. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
how is it possible that there's 30 private label companies all selling to Walmart and Ross and TJ Maxx and Macy's? And and it's like basically we knew we were competing all the time. It's like, and I remember too, the Walmart orders, it might be one or two pieces. The sheer volume paid for all of the rest of us to do our jobs.
Right.
So it's like,
Right.
I didn't even really matter in the scheme of things. Like if Walmart had a crisis, it was like all hands
Yep.
on deck to fix this t-shirt or else we all
Mm-hmm.
starve basically. And like,
Yep. And it's always that. It's always like one random thing. Like I remember
yeah,
the specific Walmart order of a tank top once that was like, this one seamless cami that we make in like a billion colors, and
yeah,
like Walmart's reordering it, and it's like everything has to stop, and like
everything.
all of a sudden I'm supposed to be there till 8 o'clock at night changing the colors on the cads because
Yeah.
Walmart needs a tank top. Like I don't.
Yes. It was insane. The biggest account that I ever successfully managed was Sam's Club. Like,
Mm.
BJ's and Sam's Clubs where you buy like a ton of peanut butter or whatever. Like, I love those for groceries. I can't even shop there because frankly, I don't have enough storage in my Brooklyn apartment to buy anything else. Like,
Uh-huh.
are you kidding me?
Uh-huh.
But I remember when we got the account, I was like, Sam's Club. Like, they sell clothes there? And they're like, oh yeah, they sell clothes. But it's like, you even had to consider how the top looked folded in a pile on a table because that's how it's
Mm-hmm.
displayed, like on a huge long table, tons of t-shirts, and all you're seeing is like the front neckline. So they called it like that's where the money has to go. Like if you're going to embroider
Right.
it, embroidering on the hem or the sleeve doesn't matter because it's on a table stacked 20 high.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, okay, I'll take on this challenge. And like we sold stuff successfully there, but it's just a whole other mentality that like I never even thought about fashion in that way before. And then I can't not think about it. And I don't even like consume or shop in the way that I used to because I just like when you see the, I don't know, atrocities or like the egregious amount of buying and the samples and the throwing things away. Like,
Oh my God, so much waste.
I mean, I love free clothes. Do not get me wrong. I would just like take things home because I'm like, you're going to throw away this like yardage. Like, I'll take it for like a Halloween costume or something.
Right, right.
But yeah, I think you're right. It's just so big. Like, I just want it to be less. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't, blame or fault consumers, including myself, who like can't afford to buy
Right.
local or don't live in New York, don't have access to like a Brooklyn designer who would make this for you. So it's like, you can't blame folks for like doing the best they can. You can 100% blame the system that has like put us all in this position essentially, and like figure out ways to like minimize that impact, I think is the goal.
Right. Right. Did you ever have conversations? This happened a lot with us. Like, just I think that sometimes people hear designer and they think like, "Ooh, it's 100% like such a creative job."
Yes.
Where like, I mean, my job right now is creative, but like,
totally.
Being a designer in a big fancy office in Manhattan was not creative because we were just copying things, and beyond copying things, we were always trying to copy like the cooler thing.
Right.
And our buyers were like, no, you can't make that because our customer isn't ready for it. She won't buy it. Like I worked there when crop tops were like just becoming a thing.
Yep.
And we would fight to try to make crop tops. And they'd be like, no, the shopper at JCPenney doesn't want a crop top. She's not ready. She's not ready for it. Did that happen with you guys?
Yes, all the time. And then like, what's funny is my boss, when I had a good, like creative director above me, she understood this cycle and she would save the good ideas we had in a closet, because guaranteed 6 months or a year later, they'd be like, oh my God, we need pom-poms. I'm like, that's hilarious.
Right.
Remember that time I pitched to be ahead of the curve? We should try pom-poms. Right. And you thought I was crazy. And she would pull out, luckily, a whole collection we already designed. And then of course it would blow up. But yeah. And I think that's like a huge problem too well, first of all, I was never taught how to like work with like sales and merchants. Like that would be like such a partnership in design. Like when I went to school, like we're not living in our own little world, just like designing pretty things. We're working with like, I wish now you are, but you're working with like a team, and like the sales doesn't appreciate that. Like you're literally paying me to like have some sort of vision for the future. Like you're supposed to show me what has worked. I'm supposed to kind of help predict how we can make that go forward. But we always called it chasing. Like we're always just chasing some trend. Like we would knock off Target. And I'm like, Target already has it. I don't think we can do it cheaper or better than Target. Like we would chase trends that were already like, accessible and like affordable. It was a very bizarre thing to realize.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is when you're making clothes to be sold at like Kmart, Walmart, West Burlington, you're knocking off what people already think is low end. Like we were knocking Forever 21. Like when you're knocking off Forever 21, I mean, you are at the bottom of the barrel, because Forever 21, all they do is knock off everyone else.
All they do.
It's just a chain of copy. And every time it's copied, it's like when you copy a picture online and you keep screenshotting it and it loses like the pixels and it just keeps getting blurrier. When you copy fashion down the line, it just gets worse and shittier.
That's like the best analogy I've ever heard, and that's absolutely true. I was like, at least be ambitious, like at least knock off like the newest thing. I'm like, I didn't even have to try that hard. I'm just gonna like look at my own closet that I bought yesterday and like knock that off for you guys. That's all I wanted. They didn't
so
care.
bad.
Yeah.
So how did you finally decide like I'm out, and what was that process?
Well, I would say I quit a lot of jobs in my 7-year career. I would kind of get to a point where I was like, I can't even focus enough to like look for a new job while I have a job. I just need to like get out and refresh. Took a couple of kind of odd jobs in between. And then I would say I hit like my most recent career turn, and I really loved working at that company. I kind of was like, whatever, I know what fashion is. Like I can handle this now. I'm more relaxed because I just like, I can't change what I can't change, but I'll just like, do the best I can. This is my career, whatever. And then Trump was elected. And then a year later, I think my nerves were just shot. And I like felt the effects of being like knowingly a part of something that was terrible as I was understanding like how systemic so many of the problems in the world are. And I felt like I was looking at my little fashion life and I was just like, ugh, like I don't feel happy. I don't feel healthy. I have no, work-life balance because I'm like chained to my desk. And frankly, the team that I love, which is why I didn't mind that job because the people were so great, which is so rare that I was like, I'll work here forever if these people stay forever. The whole team basically quit and got new jobs. And I was the only one left. And I was like, cool. So now I'm doing the job of the 2 people who were above me. So now I know that you have X amount of money left over that you're not paying those people. do you think I could get like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, a 10 grand raise now that I'm going from like associate designer to designer level? And they were like, no. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So you just want me to do it all by myself? And they're like, yeah. And they actually thought I was going to quit.
Uh-huh.
And they got really scared because I just got really quiet. And I was like, fine. And like a month later, they offered me like $5,000. And I was like, no,
Mm-hmm.
thank you. I quit. And then I quit. So it's like the end of 2017, basically, like after the new year, I was like, I'm not coming back. And luckily at the time, I was dating someone who lived in Texas and I needed a break. And he was like, come live with me. So I did. And I kind of just used
Oh.
that, it was warm. I sublet my apartment to pay my rent and I had some money saved. And I was like, let's just like do a hard reset.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like, he was an artist also and really kind of like really valued like drawing and like going to life drawing classes. And like, it's like, oh, right. I used to be an artist. Like I like that stuff. And I kind of used the few months down there to just like make stuff again and like
Mm.
explore Instagram. And I kind of like reached out to, I painted, a beautiful wedding cake that I saw and a beautiful floral arrangement that someone made on Instagram. And I tagged them and kind of like started relationships with people that were just like making beautiful things that I thought were cool. Um, and some of those people ended up just being like, hi, that was really pretty. Do you want to hang out? Like go get a coffee sometime? And I was like, genuine connection with another human? What? Like that's not how this works. So when I came back to New York, I kind of like started pursuing some of those like new relationships and kind of like segued into the wedding industry. I
Mm.
had started kind of painting again, and a lot of my friends were getting married, so I was kind of like making stationery for their wedding or like invites and stuff for their bachelorette things. And I was like, oh, maybe this is like a better application of like, I can literally make art. It's still, a practical quote unquote job that I can, like pitch and like sell as a career. Um, and oddly enough, like the wedding industry was so kind and welcoming to me after like my fashion relationship experiences. I was like, wow, everyone really wants to help. Like, and I went into it kind of like with an attitude of like, I don't know if I can really make friends. I think this is like very competitive and I need to like, you know, kind of elbow my way into this industry. And they were like,
Yeah.
no, like your work's beautiful. Like, do you want to come do a shoot with us? Like, just because we like your work. Oh, meet my friend. I have photographer friends who are like, oh, if I can't take a job, I just recommend one of my friends. And I'm like, what? You guys are kind and like, have like an abundance mentality versus like a competitive,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
cutthroat mentality. I was like, that is so nice. How lovely. So like through that community, and then I started teaching with Craft Jam, which is like a beginner friendly workshop that now we're virtual, but then was in person. And like the maker community is also so welcoming and helpful and like generous with knowledge and tips. I feel like in
Mm-hmm.
fashion, when you're like, oh, you did this before me, can you help so I don't have to work so hard? People are like, no, I worked really hard. I got
Mm-hmm.
hurt. You have to get hurt too, or else you're not allowed in the club. And I was
Oh,
like,
truly.
right? Like, why can't we just help each other not be in pain? But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, the local maker community has really become my community, like you and all the people on your podcast. It's just like, I don't know, we like want to make pretty things and like not hurt people in the process. Like imagine such
I
a
know.
world. I really didn't think it existed. And that is so crazy and cynical. And not even cynical, just like so crazy to me,
Yeah, I mean it's the reality of the fashion industry, and I even saw it like so before I ever got into the fashion industry. Because I have a very similar story to your beginning story of like, oh wow, I can just like make things, I can make my job.
Yeah.
Um, and FIT is what taught me that that's not really what it is,
Hmm.
because FIT feels very much like the fashion industry. It is. They were like, here we go, it's cutthroat time, and um it was so like never leave your sketchbook anywhere because somebody might look
Yes.
at it and steal your ideas, and like just like that's what's drilled into you when you're like 18.
Hmm.
um and then when I left there and I went to Pratt and I got an art education degree, I mean the second I got to Pratt it was like, people all just wanted to be friends and share their art supplies. And like, we would like go outside to draw a tree and they would just leave the doors open. And I was just like, what is happening? This is like such a complete about face environment. And it doesn't, and I'm not saying that like there weren't also some bad teachers at Pratt and like, not great experiences. It's not a utopia, but there was just such a stark contrast between the attitude at this fashion school and the attitude at this art school that I was like, this is more the vibe that I'm trying to be a part of. I don't know what this competitive nonsense is, but I'm not into that. And then the world proved to be the truth. And I was like, oh no.
Well, at least you saw both sides. But it's so true. It's a mindset shift, right? That's like, it's funny because I feel like when I was younger and, people are like, oh, do you want to be an artist when you grow up? And I'm like, no, I don't want to be poor. It's like that also was an unfair, like limiting belief that like an artist or a creative person is one way. Like I didn't even know how many jobs there were for creative people.
Right.
I was like, you either are a starving artist and like, all of like the kind of jokes about that and like you'll never make money and you'll have like a drinking problem, like all those like stereotype about like what an artist is. And I feel like only recently as I'm like making stuff and meeting other makers and other people who like own their own small businesses, I kind of thought that like your company had to be huge and corporate for you to like be comfortable or be successful or like exist on it. Right. And I didn't know that like, or I could kind of shift like what my idea of success is. Like I make a lot less money now than I did, but like I feel so much better that I don't care, or at least right now. And I don't know, I just like, I wish I knew how many opportunities there were and like how many other ways that you can be creative. I'm essentially like a surface designer now. I sell my artwork for like prints. And like when I worked in fashion, I would buy prints for the collection. So it's like, I'm on the other side. And I remember like my first experience buying prints from a studio. And I was like, oh my God, there's someone who sits at home and like gets to paint stuff. And then we buy that print from them. Like, that's a cool job. But then like, I had no idea how that even worked. Like no one ever really told me, or I didn't know how to find the information. So now I just feel like I'm obsessed with learning about what other people do and how, and like all the different jobs out there. Cause there's like so many opportunities.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that's almost tied into something I think about a lot, which is that people just don't really know how so many things are made.
Yes.
Like even back when we were talking about how like when I talk on Instagram about like how the fashion industry actually works and like how being in corporate fashion actually works, we've, especially here in America, here in North America, we have removed so much making here.
Yeah.
We've outsourced it, and we've outsourced it for long enough now that people can just remove the maker process from their brain. They just consume things,
good point.
and they just assume that they've popped up out of the air instead of like, no, there's a lot of people, human beings that were involved in this process, and even people who do know that concept, they still don't really know the actual process. Like when I teach my fashion business course, the last time I taught it virtually just to SmartGlamour people, not at the college, no one was somebody who wanted to be a designer. And I remember explaining how there's like a tech pack and then there's specs and then there's this and then there's this. And one of my students was like, wait, so there's like a tech pack for every garment that exists? And I was like, yeah. Like that's how things get made. You know what I mean? Like
and
it's just like
human had to make that.
Right. Yeah. Right. And people it's so easy to remove it from your mind when you're not seeing the process.
That's such a good point about not being able to see the process too. And also, cause I feel like once I realized like the factory partner is making my clothes, I was like, that I just send an idea to someone. They have to literally figure out how to make it. I'm like, I have the easy job and I'm making way more money than that person. And like, that person's getting no respect. Like, why is there not respect for the person who can like literally, I feel like people respect artists like in a very like highbrow clouded way of like, oh yes, artistry is wonderful. But I'm like, that person literally someone made this mug. I don't know how to make this mug. That's awesome. Like everyone should be like, oh my God, you should get all the money. That's so fucking cool.
I was literally just saying this to somebody else. And I feel like maybe it's going to be on the podcast that comes up right before this one, when this finally comes out. Perfect. But I was talking about how there are people who will look at me when I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to make patterns, and then the patterns turn into clothing, and I know how to drape them, and then I sew them, whatever. And they're like, that is magic. I don't know how you do
Yeah.
that, but it's magic. Guess what? It's also magic when women of color on the other side of the globe do the same thing. So like, if you think it's magical that I know how to make clothes, all of your clothes are made by humans.
Yes. Exactly.
They should all be treated fairly and paid fairly.
Yes, and like revered for this talent. It's like when I see someone in another country who like literally weaves the fabric that I'm buying to make something, I'm like, no, but someone like made the fabric too. Like,
right.
Someone dyed the yarn. Like, so I design knitwear a lot, and I feel like sweaters are the most fascinating thing because like you can design the fiber into the yarn, into how you knit the yarn together, into the garment. Like from bottom to top, you design this garment, and there can be almost no waste because you can like manipulate the pattern to just fit together perfectly with no. And I'm like, this is mind-boggling. Like, why doesn't everyone think sweaters are the most fascinating engineering feat that's like ever existed? But like, you know, we love that stuff, and I think the more people learn, like maybe they'll appreciate it more too, and not, you know, think of it as being, you know, just like wasteful or something. It's like, no, it's like a piece of artwork, basically.
Yeah, you know, and you know what's really silly that I feel like it might be making a big impact on some of those things is every time there's a new like competition show that's around making something. Like, have you watched Blown Away?
Yes, I've watched every competition show ever about making stuff.
So my husband and I are very curious human beings. We're the people who like a thought will pop up and we'll ask each other and then be like, let's find out right now. And we like look up the answer because we just like to know things and like and find the answers to everything, and then we talk about it. But we start watching these various competition shows, and then I'm just like amazed. I'm like, wow, these people are making things out of glass. What is happening? I need to become a glass maker.
It's so true. Like all the like dumb glasses I have from like the dollar store. It like someone had to make those too. Like there are like fast fashion in the glassware sector. Like they're like line, you know, you're making the same glass and bowl over and over again. I'm like, wow, that's insane. How do you even make them the same? Like that's a whole thing. It's just mind boggling. And it like I have a love hate with those competition shows because I also like, of course, love Project Runway, and that's how I kind of like got introduced to making clothes. But then like everyone, their brother thinks they can make clothes, or they think it's only this competition setting is like how things work, when in reality, not like that. Because I'm the same. I like watch the glass blowing and I'm like, is this what I should be doing with my life? It looks wonderful. Actually, it's way too hard. I do not have the patience. I don't like being hot. Nothing about that.
Oh, yes.
Be good at. But I can appreciate it from afar.
But yes. And I think it's just important to like, again, just like show as many people as possible that like things have to get made and human beings make them. I used to watch Project Runway too when I was in high school and then up into college, and then I stopped because I couldn't take the real people challenge anymore.
Oh my God.
I'm putting real people in quotes.
I heard you say that on a podcast recently, and I was like, that is so, I'm like, of all the things I hate about Project Runway, you're right. That is the most like egregious thing to watch now.
It just so perfectly encapsulates that particular challenge and that episode. Every season is just like, this is the problem with the fashion industry,
right?
Because you all don't think about dressing everyday people. You think about dressing 7 foot tall, size 00 people in heels who are 19. And like even they will not look this way probably in 10 years. And like that's such a small percentage of the population. If that is what you are designing around, who are you going to make clothes for? You might as well just make clothes and hang them up on a wall and call it an art installation, which I mean, sure, that would be a valid thing to do if you want. But like, if you can't make clothes for the majority of human beings to wear, then you can't make clothes. And I will say that sentence for the rest of my life.
I 100% agree. It's so true. And it's like some of the I remember like being shocked by the attitudes of some of the designers when that challenge came by of like, ugh, like now I have no idea how to dress this woman. I'm like, who by the way looks like me. So like, how dare you? You know, you're thinking you're like a part of this world by watching the show. Yeah. And I'm also like, I was always horrified for those poor women who had to sit there and like be treated that way. Like for this show, I'm like, can we deal with it quietly away from them and show that you're a terrible human, not in front of these poor, beautiful women? Yeah. yeah, so many problems with that show. And unfortunately, that's like
The worst.
that's the, introduction that a lot of like America has about what this world is, this like very exclusionary, seemingly exciting world. If that's what you
Mm-hmm.
think of it, I mean, you're not wrong. That is what it's like, and it's like not great.
Right. Right. But a lot of people just see that and think that like it can't be any other way. And
Right.
you're just like, oh, well, this is what it is. So,
Yeah.
and um, so let's circle back to the stuff that you do now.
Yeah.
So did you just teach yourself how to do most of those things, or did you take other people's classes and then like now you're just passing the information forward? Or like when I think about like embroidery, like did you teach yourself how to do embroidery?
I basically did. I'm pretty sure I learned when I was really little from my best friend's grandma, just like very casual embroidery. And
Mm.
then I kind of started doing it with another friend from fashion, just as like a fun. I was like, you know how to do a couple embroideries, so just like teach me. And I really only knew like 3 or 4, but I just felt like a really fun way to kind of like use fabric and feel like fashion adjacent, but not in any way be
Mm.
related. So yeah, I taught myself embroidery, but I've also taken a million classes since then. I'm like an avid Skillshare person too. It's
Mm.
been another thing as like an adult. I'm like, oh right, I could also just like learn more. Like if I don't know how to do it, I could like learn. How fun is that? Um, which is why, and I teach now at Craft Jam. I'll pitch them again because I do think it's a wonderful community. It's like a really easy, non-threatening way to learn something and have like to feel creative and be able to like try something new without the pressure of like doing it perfectly, which is
Mhm.
absolutely kind of like my mantra now. Like if you make art, like you're an artist, period. Like so many of like the models on the other podcast with you were like, I'm not a model. I'm like, you model for Smart Glamour, you're a model. I don't model for Smart, you're a model. Own it. Like, yes, you are. But
Mhm.
I for a long time said the same thing. Like, I'm not an artist. I don't make stuff. Like I'm a designer. I used to be an artist. Now I'm like, no, I'm an artist. I paint.
Mhm.
Um, I'm pretty much self-taught, but I'm always like learning other people's techniques and exploring new things and trying to try new things because I get really bored easily and kind of like abandon projects. So currently I'm into like ripping up all of my watercolor paintings and turning them into collages, which feels like
Mm.
fun and tactile and very editable, which is
Mhm.
nice.
Mhm.
Yeah, and a lot of the like digital work that I do is because I learned how to use, Adobe Suite for my fashion jobs and
Right.
the print design and repeats and things like that. Luckily, I learned, a little bit in college, but mostly on the job, a million different ways of using Illustrator and Photoshop. So
Yep.
yeah, it's kind of how I
Same.
learned. Yeah, use it in our own way now.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, yeah, I use Illustrator to do everything other than what I used to use it for.
Yeah.
Um, um, so the stuff that you're starting to do now, do you have any plans to try to incorporate that into your Etsy shop? Because I know your Etsy shop is mostly cards and then embroidery. Like, are you going to try to also sell fine art, or are you going to keep that more as just like a thing that you do for not selling purposes?
I am going to definitely expand my Etsy shop. It's kind of been like a thing where I like, throw spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks. Like I'll try something,
Mm-hmm.
get really excited about it and like list it in my shop as an option. And then I kind of started doing a lot of like semi customizable things. Like you can buy my one-off
Mm,
embroideries or you can like order your own. That's because I think it's nice when people can order something special for someone that's personalized. So I kind
right.
of wanted to offer that. Um, and I do sell my greeting cards. I sell them in some local shops too, which are kind of just like happened organically. I want to grow all of those things. I kind of
Mm,
have just been like tiptoeing around it for the past like 3 years as I'm, figuring out my post fashion career.
mm-hmm.
And the one good thing about COVID is that I'm home with time now. Um, and so I feel like I've been just like letting myself play again and doing this 100-day challenge that I'm starting, which is like trying to make art every day for 100 days. Spoiler
Mm-hmm.
alert, I'm on day like 13 and I've missed a couple, but grace to everyone this year.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it feels like finally like the culmination of my taste and the things that I like are like coming together in an artistic way. So I feel like by the end of my 100-day challenge, I will have products that I can sell as original artwork and hopefully
Hmm.
art prints from some of those too, like things I just like and feel like happy and pretty things that people might want to hang in their home.
Yeah.
I definitely want to like explore more with embroideries, just, as my own designs. And also I was selling kits for a while for people who were beginner friendly and kind of like an instruction kit. Oh, wait, do you have one?
I do, and it's literally right here. So I'm going to pick it up because I haven't started using it yet.
Oh,
I got it for
yay!
Christmas.
In the wild. Yeah, I need to sell more of those. It like start off and then I kind of, I have ideas and they drop off and then life happens. But yes,
Yeah.
that is the goal, is like to sell my own artwork is like one prong. To sell things that encourage other people to make artwork. You need maybe like a starting point. And then I also really want to start licensing my artwork for like prints and products as like another leg of my business, because like I do know how products are made. I do understand selling, things in that way and like creating things. So this period of my life, I'm trying to let myself be creative instead of designing products first. And like I'll design the products after I've made all the creative things. So short answer, yes, more things to be coming to the Etsy shop. Once I make them, which has been like what I've been saying for 3 years. I'm like, I just gotta make stuff, that's all. But sometimes
Yeah, I
it
mean,
happens and sometimes it doesn't.
I get it.
Yeah, you
I get
understand.
it. I haven't opened this embroidery starter kit yet, and I
Right?
got it for Christmas. So
But one day you will. We'll do an
I'm
embroidery
going to.
craft day. Oh, on Sunday, if you come to my craft day, you can embroider.
So I am coming to that craft day, but what I have another project I have to finish first, which is my giant mosaic that I'm building for my faux fireplace that we have in this apartment that I've been working on also forever. Because the thing about making things for a living is then sometimes at night when you want to make something for yourself, you are tired
100%.
and you don't want to make things anymore. So I was like, oh, great. I have a date on Sunday to do this virtual crafting, and I will bring my mosaic and finish it. So actually, that's a great little segue. Can you explain what this virtual crafting thing is and why you decided to do it? Because this podcast will come out after that already happens, but it's a continuous thing. So maybe you can talk about it.
I kind of like a lot of humans right now, I miss connecting to other people, and especially like making stuff with other people. Like I would get together with my friends, either like teach them a craft or our craft jam classes used to be in person and it was much more social. Now they're virtual, so it's still social, but I feel like I'm also like meeting cool people on Instagram that are making things. And it's like you kind of make friends on the internet. And I'm like, I would like to hang out with you, but you don't live here, or because of COVID, we can't hang out. So I just wanted like to make a space where we could just like take a couple hours out of the day to do that creative thing you've been putting off and also chat about it, right? Clearly necessary for both of us. It's funny, because last time I spent the whole time talking and I didn't even make anything. I was just like so excited to be like chatting with everyone. But this time I'm going to really make something. I don't know what. But yeah, like I have a lot of friends who, have other careers, but they're like, I want to make time to do something creative. Like I have friends that are new moms and they're like, I just want 2 hours to like paint cards for my girlfriends. I just like haven't had the time. So, setting aside a couple of hours, it's free. It's just like a Zoom meetup. I'm going to try to do them monthly as like a way for folks to connect. And also like sometimes you're working on a project and someone else in the group is like really good at embroidery and they have like a suggestion for you, or like I've learned some of the best tips and tricks when I'm teaching a class, but the other students will like give advice to someone else or to me about some tip and trick they've learned. And I'm like, that idea just like saved my life, So I kind of like, it's like the old like stitch and bitch, like craft circles, but we're really not stitching. We're just like hanging out and crafting. So and everyone. So I post the link on my Instagram and it's just like, I made an Eventbrite thing, which I feel very proud of. It feels super professional. It doesn't have a photo. I mean, listen, baby steps.
Yes. Well, last time you only had the Zoom. This time we got an Eventbrite and a Zoom.
I know.
So next time you'll just keep tacking it on.
It'll be amazing. Hopefully it works. I gotta double check that before Sunday. Good call.
Oh boy,
it's a lot.
So towards the end of this chat here, I feel like I'm not going to ask my typical question about how we like to see the industry change, because I think that's what we talked about for the first 25 minutes.
I just want half of it to burn to the ground and the other half to just be people who are nice. Can we make that happen?
Yes, I think that's fair. But so instead I'm going to ask my other somewhat tangential question that I kind of morph around depending on who I'm talking to. So do you have something that you would say in a, positive motivational advice type of way to somebody who maybe wants to start making art And like, does it just like doesn't really know how to start? Like where they should they look? What should they do? How should they feel about it?
That's a really good question because I think me included, people get bogged down on like not starting until you have something, until you have the right supplies, you've taken a class, you've like bought the, the website with your potential future company name. It's like, just go make stuff. Like, I'm saying this to myself as much as anyone else, like just start with what you have. If you want to learn watercolor, take a beginner watercolor class, find folks online that you think are making beautiful artwork that you want to make, and like try to paint in their style. Like, don't sell that artwork and pretend it's your own. You can just use it as like,
No.
no, that's wrong. And we don't do that. But like, I am inspired by a lot of people and I try to kind of learn to paint like they do and then realize it's either not for me or kind of make a twist on it and make it my own. But like, I think to find your style and find what makes you unique, you just have to like try a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you don't need to wait to do that. You also don't need to like have an art degree to do that. You don't need to even, have fancy supplies. Like, honestly, I usually hold up like my Crayola watercolor palette from the dollar store when I'm teaching because I'm like, that's what I started painting with. I was stressed out at my fashion job. I went to the dollar store and I was like, I'm just going to paint really watery, drippy flowers today because like I feel stressed and sad. So you don't need to start anywhere fancy, like just make something. And I think in that process and connecting to other people who are doing things you think are interesting or inspiring, like you will find the community that I'm finding now with you and all the other lovely folks. But yeah, it's you realize that like you're not the only one. And also like there's a wealth of information other people are willing to share. It doesn't need to be, an exclusive, high-end snobby environment. It can really just be like you like painting and you start and you befriend other folks who like to start painting. So that's my
Yes.
advice.
Yes, absolutely. So, speaking of that, where can folks find you on the internet so they can be part of your community?
Yes, let's be friends on Instagram. You can find me at Oxford Comma Company, like the Vampire Weekend song or the grammatical thing. That's my Instagram. My website, honestly, is not really up and running, so I won't pitch that. You can also find me teaching classes at Craft Jam. Craftjam.co is their website and their Instagram. I teach a bunch of classes, but all the teachers there are wonderful. And if you want to like learn something new, start fresh, that's a really great place to kind of find a way to get into it too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. This was a lovely chat.
Thanks for having me. You're so great. I love you.
Love you too.